right, everyone, welcome. We've got season 2, episode 8 of Phaser Friday, and we've got a very, very special guest, a guy I've wanted to have on for a long time. We've got Mr. Daniel Yates at Blue Collar Brands. How we doing, man?
Hey, doing well. What's up?
Dude, honestly, such a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you again for, taking the time and sitting down and talking some business here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I think it's been a little while coming. I know that we've talked about it on and off, and I think I just was slow getting back to you. But thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, man.
Dude, you're a hard guy to get a hold of, not gonna lie. I kept trying to message you and I was like, his secretary probably just is ignoring me and all this stuff, but I'm glad I broke through, and I guess that's a good lesson on staying consistent and very persistent. So got you on the show.
You got to get through both secretaries, and then
yeah,
that's how it works.
Yeah, but good deal, man. Well, I'm sure most of the people listening to the podcast right now know who you are, but for those who don't know who you are, give a little background of what you do and where you're from.
Yeah, so I'm from Austin, Texas. I grew up in a suburb north of Austin. I now live in a suburb south of Austin with my wife. We both own and run a company called Blue Collar Brands. And essentially what we do is we help construction companies, landscaping companies, mining, basically blue collar companies that care about their people, show off their people and tell their people's stories. So the background and the backstory is I picked up a camera in high school, had no not an artistic bone in my body, but for some reason decided that I wanted to take up photography. I started taking pictures of abandoned buildings and getting on rooftops and meeting up with random people on Instagram. And I think I was 16 at the time, and my parents would drop me off in downtown Austin with a bunch of 30-year-old strangers, and we'd go mob around the city and take pictures of stuff that people typically didn't see. And that was my big thing. I had an Instagram, and it was called Untitled, and I like to show off things that people just wouldn't typically see in their day. And I loved that. Then I realized, okay, I kind of need to make some money doing this. And 2 months in, I think I bought a professional camera. Still have the camera. It's not my main one, but I still have it. And just decided, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do with my life. Let's go. We're going to do this. And I started doing a lot of travel photography. So I was homeschooled actually. And so I was able to travel throughout high school a little bit and do work with just a handful of brands. And I did weddings for a little while, did a little bit of everything, but I have absolutely no blue collar background.
Yeah.
Actually, my dad is a data analyst and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. I don't have an uncle in construction or anything like that. So when I got out of high school, I started a video production company because that was the next step in my mind, that I wanted to stay relevant. I wanted to be able to tell bigger stories, and you can tell a lot of stories with a photo, but you can tell a more three-dimensional story with a video. And so I kind of fell in love with that, and I always loved learning new things. So I was like, this is the next thing I get to learn, right? We basically kind of served whoever came through the door. Anything that we morally agreed with filming, we would film and work with people and help them build their business. So anything from small businesses to brands like Celsius Energy, if you're familiar with the energy drinks, or Google Plus, things like that. And then I got married shortly after. So I was 18 when I got married, and my wife was 19. Hope was 19, and we basically were like, oh, we actually have to make some money now, So we were making some money, but I remember we took a month off after we got married. We got married in July, and then we took the month of August off. And I remember being halfway through August and being like, oh shit, we don't have any business lined up for next month. And anyway, with a ridiculously stupid work ethic, and maybe not even work ethic, probably more just driving myself into the ground, waking up at 4 a.m. and going to bed at midnight or 1 a.m. and just grinding. Finally, we had enough business, that kind of thing. I'd been filming this relay race though. The first video gig that I was paid to do was a relay race. It was a 48-hour relay race, and you had basically everybody ran. It was like a 200-mile relay race, right? And so I was up for 48 hours straight, filmed this thing, and then turned the video around in 48 hours. It was my first time ever using video editing software, and I got paid $300 for it, which I spent on drum back beforehand. But I did it again next year because, amnesia, and also because I asked a lot more for it. And then I did it again the following year. And that year, the CFO of a local construction company, Cash Construction Company here in the Austin area, ironically, 5 minutes from the house I grew up in, had no idea it was there. But he reached out to me and said, hey, I saw the video you did for this relay. I ran the relay and I saw the video. And we need something like this for our construction company. And in my mind, I was like, why the hell does a construction company need a video? That doesn't make sense. And the more I thought about it, though, I was like, I don't know what they do. That's why they need the video, because literally could not tell you what a civil construction company does. Like, I don't know what goes into building a subdivision or, building roads or anything like that. And so I sat down and had lunch with them, and we, agreed to do the project. And I'm so thankful we did, because I remember walking out there on the first day on site, and I had my brand new Walmart pair of steel-toed boots and a brand new hard hat and an orange vest that didn't fit me very well, and walked out on site, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, damn, this is pretty cool. Number one, blew me away. Obviously the heavy equipment's badass. They're building a huge subdivision, and so there was just the scale of the project. I mean, they were doing trenching, they were laying pipe, they were doing cut and fill. They had mass excavation going on. There was just a ridiculous amount of stuff that was going on that I had no idea was happening right under my nose. This was literally, 5 minutes from the house I grew up in, once again. And so that, just the scale of the projects that, these civil construction companies complete, blew my mind. You can't flush your toilet without them. You can't, turn on the lights. You can't, your house is going to flood, very quickly if you don't properly grade, a development, right? Or stabilize the soil correctly, depending on where you are. And I just was so enamored with that. But the biggest thing, and to this day, what remains the biggest thing, is the people, by and large. There are so many amazing people in the construction industry and in the blue collar world. And I think that there are so many honestly stupid stereotypes that I didn't grow up with people telling me oh, construction people are bad or anything like that. But you get mad at, when you're driving and there's a lot of traffic because of construction, or, you have this idea in your mind of what a blue collar worker is, and, how some of them might act. And it's that's just not the case. And so upon kind of finding this knowledge, I was like, this is amazing. I love this, and this is what I want to do. I didn't really know how to go about that, because as you know, the construction world is pretty closed off in terms of if you're not in it, it's very hard to enter into, and for good reason, because it's a dangerous place. It's a very specific place. You really have to know what you're talking about or what you're doing to be in it. But thankfully, we had the opportunity to work with this company, with Cash Construction's sister company, Wanzik Construction, which is based out of North Dakota. And they saw the video that we did for Cash, and they said, hey, we want to do a video with you. And we actually ended up having 2 videos from 2 different people reached out to us at Wanzik. So we did 2 of those videos, and then I had started posting things on LinkedIn, right? I'd been doing that since before we got any construction, material or anything like that we'd filmed. And when I started posting that stuff, it blew up.
Yeah.
So I just was very consistent. I just kept posting things. I started taking pictures when I was out on site as well. So I had more content to post, and I would cut extra clips and post them, and just started connecting with a bunch of people who were in executive levels or project management levels at different companies that were nearby, or that I was interested in kind of getting to know. And that is really where all of our business has come from is LinkedIn, or, working with sister companies of other companies that we've done work with.
Yeah, and LinkedIn is incredible. And if anyone has listened to any of my podcasts or any podcasts I've been on, I will always live by the sword and die by the sword. Like LinkedIn is incredible. Instagram is great as well, but it doesn't even come close to LinkedIn, especially for business when you're ready to actually send an invoice to somebody and like do some services for them. LinkedIn is no better. And it helps building that professional profile for you. So fun fact, as I was getting into the agency world, I started my agency in 2019. I had already been on LinkedIn for a while, and, just connecting with other people, getting the lay of the land. And the first ever person that I actually connected with, because I didn't even know, similar to you, I didn't know marketing and photography and construction was a thing.
Yeah.
Until I found somebody on LinkedIn. Guess who it was?
Aaron.
No, it was you.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, dude.
Nice.
Before Aaron Witt and before Build Witt and all those guys. Like, yeah, I found blue collar brands, and I was like, what is this? And even before I learned about niching down in an industry, like I didn't even have any knowledge about that. I saw your stuff. I was like, dude, this is actually pretty sweet. And similar to you, I didn't have any construction background, but our first client is second client actually is Black Iron Dirt out of Fargo, North Dakota, and Luke Payne, good friend of mine. And all of a sudden, like the stars started aligning. I was like, okay, like this industry is incredible. There's a need. The people are awesome. They have the resources to spend on their company and to, build a more well-rounded company. So maybe I should focus more on one industry. And then I did, even dove deeper into the industry, talked to guys like you and Aaron and other people. I'm like, okay, this is definitely where we need to be. And, then started just shying away other business. And since then it's been awesome. So yeah, shout out to you and your LinkedIn page, because here we are today. So
sweet. Dude, I had no idea. That's awesome. And thanks
yeah,
for the kind words too. I really appreciate it. That's encouraging to me.
yeah, absolutely, man. So I wanted to dive a little bit more into your businesses. I know we get a lot of people listening that, probably own a business or at least have a hobby that they want to start making some money on. And I'm glad you brought it up earlier about, we're taking photos, we're doing videos, and then you realize like, oh shit, like we should probably try making some money because we have rent due next month.
Yep.
So if you could dive into a little bit of that, because you have two businesses here, from what I'm seeing, is Media on Edge and Blue Collar Brands. Are they the same company? Are they totally separate? Like, how do those two companies work?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Essentially, we have been in the middle of a rebrand for probably 2 years now. And that's what you're seeing. We started as Media on Edge, and then whenever we picked up and got into the construction world, there was definitely a point where it was actually when COVID hit, or right before COVID hit, we were already making enough, because you have to look at things in a monetary sense. Like you do what you do because you love it, but then you also do it because you need to make money doing it. And we were making enough money to sustain ourselves, based off of just the construction clients that we were working with when COVID hit, and everything else went dead. So all the companies that we were working with outside of the construction world was like, okay, we're gone, and so they all disappeared, right? And so we were like, okay, well, thank God we're working in with the construction industry. Like, and at that point I was like, why are we working with these other companies? I don't really have any inclination towards what they're doing. I don't have any like personal purpose really built into it, aside from telling, being able to tell stories, which I enjoy. But I'd grown this attachment to the blue collar world. And so at that point was kind of when we had started. It's funny, I had actually gone out and kind of come up with the name Blue Collar Brands, and had come up with everything, and I was starting to build a website. And then I think Hope found out that was kind of putting that stuff together, and we had to have a big talk. We're like, okay, we got to make these decisions together. But
Right.
she got on board with the name and everything, and then it's just been a whirlwind of the past 2 years. And so ironically, we build websites and run social media and make videos and do photos and everything for everybody and do marketing consulting, but we have literally not completed our rebrand.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's what that is. So essentially, yeah, we only operate blue collar brands, but everything on our website is still under Media on Edge, and so is like my email domain. So it's kind of confusing, but it's really not that expensive.
Yeah. So that brings up a really good question that I get quite frequently, and it's one of my favorite questions actually. And I'm curious to hear your answer to it. But how do you market a marketing agency? Like, how do you market a marketing company?
I mean, you tell your clients stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's, I mean, every single company, it's the same recipe. If you want to look at it from a recipe, it's, I mean, I don't know if you've read, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, or if you've checked out his podcast. It's that whole concept of, you have a customer, right? Whether you're B2B or B2C, whatever it is you're doing, you have a customer, and your job is to help them be the hero of the story, right? You want them to win at the end of the day. Your goal is for them to win by solving their problem, and you to win, obviously, monetarily, because that's how businesses survive. That's the purpose of business, right? It's to make money and provide a service.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, the same thing for a marketing company. You want to make your clients the hero of your story, right? And it can be difficult in marketing because when it comes to digital and things like that, there's a lot more metrics you can track, right? When it comes to web traffic or social media insights, things like that. But I think one of the things that I always struggled with was, how do you kind of create a case study for how your video, how well your videos perform, or your photos, or things like that. And I think really at the end of the day, you don't necessarily have to have a case study other than saying, hey, look at my client, let me put them on a pedestal so you can see exactly what this is doing for them, exactly what do they look like to you. Is their brand stunning? Is their brand shining above the others in their market? If so, that's the result of our hard work on the back end and putting the content out as well.
Dude, that's spot on. I mean, you couldn't have said it any better there. And that's exactly like how you should do it, I think. And in my opinion as well. And we've done that specifically with Black Iron Dirt, Luke Payne's company. It's just like, it is tough to track the long-term effects of branding. Like, yes, you can track the leads and everything, but in construction, you're not necessarily just trying to pound them with leads, left and right, because they typically have enough work to go around. So I do feel that it can be tough, but what you said there, like, a lot of it is just the trust. It's like, do you just trust me? Let's build a long-term partnership instead of just this short, quick, like 3-month campaign. Like, let's do this over a long period of time. And I always like to say, either lay a perfect brick every single day, or, just continue building those good marketing habits every single day over a long period of time. And then just ask around to say, like, do you agree that that's a good company, or that'd be a good company to work for? Or have you seen them around? And yeah, I mean, to me, that's a lot like how we work as well. It's just those long-term partnerships, and you may not have all the right answers either, in the videos or in the websites or whatever it is. But the cool part about our businesses is that you can like work with them to figure it out. And there's more of that partnership vibe. Like, I mean, you've been working with Cash now for a long time. So it's, and you probably aren't going to go anywhere for the next X amount of years either. So like, I think that's just the coolest business model, is to get into business with people instead of just these companies.
Yeah. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, companies are people. I mean,
Exactly.
I'm the biggest proponent of that. Like,
yeah,
it goes down to literally any problem that you're trying to solve is a people problem. Ultimately, it's an interpersonal issue, right? And every business is, it's funny because every business that I see, most of the time, if you try to approach it from how does the business build a better culture, or how does the business market itself better? Or how does the business attract or retain more people? And it's like, dude, your people are the business. So in order to do this, you have to actually activate whatever it is that whatever ideas you have, and you have to start them at the top, whoever's making those decisions, and you have to ensure that they're passed down so that your people can embody your culture, or ultimately it really is culture, when it comes to retention and hiring, or like telling, your company's story, right? The people are the company.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It makes it a really interesting industry to be involved in, because, when I go out and talk to some other friends that, are marketing agency owners for the legal field, or for, you name it, like real estate agents or whoever, they have their solutions to their problems. And I think it's very interesting in the construction industry because it's so different. It's almost a totally separate like entity, because if I were to just pitch them what I would pitch to any other company, like they would just laugh and say, we don't want 10x our leads. Like we have way too many, things like that. So it's listening to the industry and what's going on, and listening to the people that make up these great companies. And so, yeah, like if I feel like you and I couldn't do that if we were out taking on all these other clients in 20, 30 different industries. So it's cool to see, how you've niched down as well. And then it just so happens that you absolutely love the industry, and that makes it easier to pour more time and money and resources back into it, because you don't look at it as much like you're working. It's just you're thinking about it, you're driving by, you throw the drone up, you take some pictures, and you're just like always kind of looking around, even if you're on vacation. So it's one of those industries that, especially growing up as a little kid and loving big trucks and tractors, it is the best industry to be in.
Yeah. I literally went on a walk this morning, and there's a new subdivision right next to ours. And I was like checking out the scraper spread and checking out the dozers pushing down a stockpile. Like I'm a kid in a candy shop,
Yeah. Dude, that's amazing. So I want to dive into a little bit more when you guys are first starting out, and maybe even to now. I think it's very interesting, being an entrepreneur, figuring out there's so many things to figure out, and just, between marketing, branding, sales, legal stuff, paying yourself, all of that. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, when you first started out, because you're in this with your wife, how did you go about paying yourselves? Like, did you separate the business from you guys as individuals, or do you kind of have in one account and just hope that you get those projects in? Like, how do you go about, separating those, and then also budgeting? Because as you said at the beginning, like it's tough, like if you're not planned out for the next month, but now you're at a much better place. So how do you go about doing that?
Yeah. So when we started, I didn't know what we were doing. Honestly, when we started, it was just me. My wife was in school. She went to school at Texas State. So we were living in San Marcos, which is 15 minutes from where we live now. And I was basically I didn't have an LLC or anything like that. I was just operating as a subcontractor. So I would send my W-9 over and get my 1099s at the end of the year, and everything went into our account, and we'd move some stuff to savings. And it was very, very haphazard, if you will. That was back in 2018. And then it took a little bit of time. And I think the beginning of 2020 is when I actually formed an LLC and was like, okay, let's actually do this like the right way. And so we, just upon taking advice from other people that I had talked to and people I knew who had businesses, we went ahead and set up, our own business account and started taking a paycheck instead of just funneling all the money into our personal account. And I would say it's hugely important to do it that way, because number one, like, you actually can budget for yourself personally, which I think is really important. And you can actually keep track of where your money is going or where it's not going. And so, what we do is we basically just pull our paycheck every month, and we have Well, it's interesting now. We're an S corp now, and so
Yep.
we can take owner's drawings and then have a paycheck as well. And so it's kind of it's a combo. But we go and do whatever our accountant says to do. So
Right. Yeah.
that's actually the biggest advice I can give to anybody is once you can afford to have somebody do your taxes and do all your
Yep.
accounting stuff, ask them how you should handle it and what kind of entity you should have. Um, and then, yeah, taking a paycheck, I think, is wildly important. The rest of the money for the business, I don't budget for the business necessarily, aside
Right.
from taxes, like we pay quarterly taxes. So there's not a whole lot of budgeting that goes into that. You just kind of make sure you have that money. I do have a separate account that I set that money aside in
Yeah.
now. And then equipment, I have an account that I put a certain amount into each month just to replace equipment or things like that. That way there's no like big like we crashed the
Right.
drone again this month or something like that. Yeah, but otherwise it's pretty simple. The biggest thing is just giving ourselves that monthly set amount and not just taking all of the money, because that's not the point. That's
Right.
not what we're here for. We want to reinvest whatever we can back into either helping more clients or helping the clients we have on a higher level.
Definitely. Yeah. And you don't want to own a job, you want to own a business. So eventually you need to get out of the whole, like, oh, when you make money from a project, that just goes directly into your like spending account in your
Yeah.
personal side. So, and I'm really glad we're talking about this because I've been talking to my dad a lot about this. He owns, he does speaking. And so he owns his own business. Shout out at Off Duty Chief. And he just made the move over from being a personal, just money coming into the separate business entity, and he loves it because essentially, yeah, you can pay yourself whatever you want, but when it's two separate entities, it's like, okay, well, what's reasonable? Like, how much can my wife and I live on, or how much do we need? And then you set that amount and you just pay yourself that each month, or for myself, I do every 2 weeks. And then that's what you have to budget with. And then your business is totally separate. So that way you can be making way more money, but then, yeah, you take a certain percentage of that stays in the business, a certain percent goes to taxes, certain percent pays your team, pay yourself out of it. And then what I do that has helped me is let's make sure everyone else is good, the business is good, things are growing. And then, yeah, at the end of the year, at the end of the quarter, if there's money left over, like cut yourself another $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever for like a bonus or something.
Mhm.
And, that way, it gives you a little bit more peace of mind, so that if something does break, which it always does, and something, you do lose a client, or, a pandemic or something comes through, it's like, you just want to be prepared and building this asset. And, you know, it's kind of funny too. Like, I don't even transfer the money. I actually write myself like a
Nice.
check. And
Nice.
it's just like such a weird thing when I tell people that, because I guess it's good for our accountant to see like an actual check. And so twice a month, I just write myself my own check, but it stays the same. And I think
Mhm.
that's important to note. Like, it's not like we're chasing the dollars anymore. And we never really were, because we've always kept it separated. And I think that goes into like your heart when you're working with these companies, or you're on a sales call, or you're, talking to different leads. Yes, the money is great to have in for the business, but it doesn't directly affect like how much you're going to be spending. So I think just that mindset change is huge as well.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Making money is a part. It's one of the rules of the game. You have to make
Yeah.
money to run a successful business. It's not why you play the game. It's
Yeah.
not the end goal of the game. It's just a rule of it. You got to make money and you've got to manage it.
Yeah. And you can do a lot more for your clients if they're paying you more.
Yeah,
It's just one of
yeah.
those weird things where it helps everyone all around. You can invest into training for your own team. You can invest into a vacation for your family so that you're better mentally. You can invest into different SEO softwares for your clients, like different things like that, where if you're just breaking even on every client every month, and you think it's a good thing because you're not charging them as much, it's really not, because you're not doing them a good service, and you're not doing your company and your family any service as well.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely doing your client a disservice if your focus 50% of the time is on finding a new client in case that client leaves
Yes.
you. You don't have to worry about that if you're charging what you're actually worth or charging just a little bit more. That way you can, keep up with the clients you have.
Right. Definitely. So, and for everyone listening, we've got Daniel Yates at Blue Collar Brands. Go give him a follow on Instagram and LinkedIn, of course. And also thank you to the Phaser Friday sponsors. We've got Leading Edge Grading, Musk Miners, Resolute Accounting, and Work Zone Coffee. Speaking of accountants, Resolute Accounting, so they had sponsored the podcast before I started working with them. And then about 2 months ago, I hired Gabe. He's the owner. And so now he's like our outsourced CFO essentially, because we're
Nice.
obviously way too small to like hire a full-time CFO. So
Yeah.
that's what he does it for businesses is he, partners up with them. He does their books, taxes, helps them budget, but on like a monthly basis, like a CFO would. So a huge shout out to all of our sponsors for making this happen. And Daniel, thanks again for jumping on the show. We've got a few more things I definitely want to dive into.
Yeah.
First off, are you, so do you ever find yourself like your head is down too much, like into the work and it's hard to take a breath and like grow the business or go out and shake hands with other people? Or do you feel like you've got a decent balance on that? Or how is that going?
Yeah. So I think that's changed over the years. It's on and off. As you know, business is a roller coaster. So you've got busy seasons and you have slow
Mhm.
seasons. And so in those times you have different, different priorities and you have different amounts of time to actually give to those priorities, right?
Yeah.
So I would say it definitely depends on the season. Right now, we're having our baby at the end of September, and we're taking off a month. I'm taking a month off after the baby comes, so I'm in like head down mode, trying to finish
Yeah.
editing a bunch of videos and kind of finishing up some projects and getting everything ready so that everything runs smoothly for our clients when I'm away. Um, so right now, definitely head down.
Yeah.
But in those times though, there's still those thoughts that come to your mind. And I find that when I'm very head down, like I get kind of tired of just doing the work sometimes. And so
Mhm.
I'll take some time to just sit and be like, okay, what ideas do I have? And I'm not
Right.
necessarily going to work on them. I'm not necessarily going to implement them right now, but I'm going to write them down for when I get
Yeah.
back so I can add this to the business or do this or that. And I'm by no means perfect at executing all of those things, but that's something that's helped me for sure, even when I'm
Yeah.
kind of bogged down working on in the business.
Yeah, definitely. And huge congrats, man. Having
Thanks.
first
Appreciate
baby. I mean, that's so exciting.
it.
And what a blessing that you're able to step away from work, for a month.
Yeah.
And I think you'll be the first to say that it's incredible to have clients that respect that as well. And they, I'm sure they're rooting for you and they're there for you as well. And it's like, um, what a cool opportunity that you have, like running this business and also like being able to juggle like real life. So it's
Yeah.
so you're taking like a month off, but there's a lot that you can do upfront, like you said. So is that a system of, editing, shooting, and then scheduling throughout the month, or how does that work?
Yeah. So basically, we've known this is coming. We've known the due dates coming for
Right.
9.5 months now, right? And so we essentially scheduled everything to where we got all of our actual production days, so all of our
I'll see.
shooting done, so all the on ground work that we were doing pretty much done in July, June, August. And that way I've had the past month and a half to essentially just work
Yeah.
really, really hard on editing stuff. And so what we did was we typically have like a 30-day turnaround on most everything we do, unless the client needs something quicker. What we did was all of the contracts we signed in the past 4 or 5 months, I think we did a 60-day turnaround for, unless there was
Nice.
something the client really, really needed. And that way we were actually able to turn everything around in time and not, go back on our word or anything like that. So that was really helpful. And then, yeah, just basically now it's kind of come to where I'm just kind of head down editing a bunch of stuff, a lot
Yeah.
of interviews and things like that, so and that's where I kind of end up, this week I'm going to have to work a little extra and, put in
Hmm.
some overtime, if you will, but
Oh yeah.
I typically don't though. And that's one thing that I'm really blessed. Like I work from 9 to 5 most days, or an equivalent of that at least. Or, if I need to take off in the middle of the day because I'm not doing well mentally, or like,
Yeah.
I'm need a break or something like that, I'll do that and I'll come back to it later. So it just depends on the season, there's different
Yeah.
there's a time for everything, right?
Summertime in Texas.
Yeah. It's time to get out. That's what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, it's just really cool to hear. And I'm definitely a big proponent on that as well, of just, doing your best to take care of yourself. And, if you're not enjoying this whole business journey that you're going down, like, yes, it's going to be a grind, it's going to be tough, but like at the same time too, like you got to enjoy it. You got to, take time away, like not do these 23-hour days, and at least do your best not to be. And I know that especially in the construction industry, like it is tough. There are long hours, and we get to talk with a lot of our clients and help get them out of that stage.
Mhm.
Like we do realize that there is a point where it is necessary, but our job and a lot of our jobs is to help round out their business a little bit more so that they can have some more systems in place so that they're not always having to be on the job site. But yeah, it's easier said than done, but it's definitely important to take care of your mentals and make sure that you're doing things you love to do.
Well, I think the beautiful thing about what you just said is that we get to come in from an outside standpoint, and that's, I think, every business needs that. Every business needs
Yeah.
somebody to come in and say, why the hell are you doing it this way? But the cool thing is that because we're niched down, and if you will, like working in the industry, we kind of understand, okay, we get why you're doing this, we get
Right.
why it's been done this way. But now, instead of just saying stop it, because that's not how it works, you can't just
Right.
stop. If you've been working, if your entire market works 6 or 7 days a week, and has everybody running 10-hour days, right? Like every day of the week, you can't just stop doing that immediately. You
Right.
have to figure out a game plan and exit strategy to get out of that and figure out how you're going to make up for that, right? But because we come in from the outside, we can kind of see that and say, look, you aren't just competing with ABC excavation over here. You
Yeah.
you are competing against, the Best Buy or the Starbucks or the Target or the, whatever else, or even bigger companies, that have, office jobs, things like that.
Yeah. So one thing I just thought of too is the whole like collaboration versus competition. I know we've been talking a lot more about that, and partially, I mean, I guess you and I even too, like we're in very similar industries, but at the same time too, like we would much rather collaborate with people in our industry. And we were talking about Raphael Ogel earlier, and people like that, and
Legend.
Aaron Witt and Forrest Dorman, like all these guys, they're just like, I feel like none of us see each other as competition, because you're actually not competition at all. And even when you boil it down to construction companies, like you talk to Luke Payne and he'll say, he like, yes, there might be some competition out there, but he doesn't lay in bed all night thinking about them and thinking about what they're doing and like trying to beat them and all this. It's like, you work with them when you can, especially in construction now, because most of the guys, their schedules are filled up and they actually need help. And so if you have a free weekend and you want to go push snow, for Glacier, like go up and go help them push snow, get it done. And, so we're seeing a lot more of that, more of the collaboration. I don't know if it was just maybe even like a generational thing of where they didn't do that a whole lot before, but it seems like there's a lot of collaboration going on, which is really cool to see, because, they're all kind of, getting together essentially and helping each other out.
Yeah, which is, I think, essential. Like I think that's the way forward.
Yeah.
Because the industry is in a rut in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Very behind in a lot of ways, and the way out is together, for sure.
Yeah, good deal, man. Well, that's a wrap on the good old Phaser Friday podcast. We've got Daniel Yates. Just can't thank you enough. I respect your work and everything you do for the industry and the people around you. I mean, you've been incredible. And I just, like I said, I can't thank you enough for being on the show and also just being a great friend.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, and thanks for being a good friend too. I appreciate it very much. And y'all are killing it over there too. I love seeing what y'all are doing with the small to mid-sized construction companies. That's a niche that needs served very much so, because those are going to be some of those companies are going to be the large, mid to large, size excavation companies of the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we fit in very well there, and we're like, all right, let's get comfortable here because we're not going anywhere. So it's a great spot, but at the same time, it takes all of us to kind of do our part, and that's why I just appreciate having you on the show, and also just having you in business in general.
Yeah, right back at you, man.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.